will focus on the woman who's being the victim,
right,
or the man has been the victim. We exclude the children.
Folks are trying to study the underlying brain mechanism to figure out how does this particular disorder happen in the brain? How is the brain processing this?
Don't worry about AI, worry about humans working with AI.
Are you willing to learn new skills to stay relevant for the future job market? That's the challenge that people are going to struggle with.
This is Face of Sports, WESN Content Capital. How you felt about the kiss on the lip?
That's the business. I'm not to do with that.
I find that was distasteful.
The national senior team, whether you like it or not, that is the model for all other teams to follow.
I'm assuming that the regional requirement may be a much stricter requirement.
This is not about Pro League and Super League. This is a league run by the Normalization Committee that I'm responsible for.
Nobody expected FIFA to fund this arrangement.
If we don't get a professional attitude towards this, we are doomed for failure.
You break the balance, trip the leg, control the body.
They ain't gonna stand put forever.
Why you want the Chiefs to lose so? Why you want the Chiefs to lose so?
They already have two. Lamar don't
Why?
have.
You're jealous because you know the Chiefs getting closer to the Patriots. Let's go to the last part.
No,
let's go to the last part.
You are watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Just give an overview of what exactly is that split arrangement.
Nah, you don't need to register nothing. We can do that another time. But then it becomes a hit, and then everybody starts to want to claim.
The laws that predate many of the independent countries' constitutions are going to be those colonial laws.
We know there are an infinite amount of circumstances that would lead to a murder.
I have a great idea and I have a great concept, but until it's actually expressed, it does not become intellectual property.
Accomplishments or targets of a forensic accountant is to quantify what may have been lost.
We believe we defend criminals and we manipulate the law and we exploiting the system.
A responsible journalist will reach out to the person who they have the information on for a comment.
Pastor J, I want to get a tattoo.
You really
want to me. Respond to me how you would respond to me.
The first question I'll ask is why?
Controversial taboo topics.
We get so consumed by church, we forget that we have to live the life of being a Christian outside of the Sunday.
Like you say,
services.
we think going to a service makes us a Christian.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right, so here we are about to hear the second time Pastor J wanted to take a tattoo.
Would have been late last year and early this year.
Oh gosh.
Hope Unfiltered podcast with Pastor J and Ren.
This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for. It's called loss and damage. And we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region.
Man is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. And Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
WESN.
WESN. I'm Naomi Macnish.
And I'm Jada McLeod.
So this morning we're going to start off with some conversation, some news updates between Jada and myself. So we're going to jump straight into it.
As you know,
first order of business.
Yes, first order of business, of course. So the first thing we wanted to talk about is this very interesting trial case that we want to just keep an eye on. An antitrust deal. It threatens Mark Zuckerberg's ownership of Meta that encompasses Facebook, WhatsApp, I think they have Instagram as well. All of that under the one Meta umbrella. So Mark Zuckerberg, he's in some hot water now. Once more, as the antitrust deal has had its first day in court last week. For some context, the U.S. Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, alleges that Meta's leading social media platform, Facebook, became a monopoly in the market for personal social networking, in part by buying up potential rival social media startups like Instagram and WhatsApp. So buying smaller rival social media companies, the FTC claims it was part of a buy or bury strategy to block fair competition. So take a look at this video.
A landmark antitrust suit by the Federal Trade Commission against Meta is finally getting its day in court later. The FTC first brought the case against Meta, the parent company of Facebook, Instagram and WhatsApp, in 2020. After a series of delays and appeals, Judge James Boasberg will now listen to several weeks of testimony. The FTC alleges that the social media giant illegally monopolized the market through its purchases of Instagram and WhatsApp, pushing out legitimate competition. With more, here's our technology correspondent, Lily Jamali.
For more than a decade, Mark Zuckerberg and Sheryl Sandberg grew Meta into a behemoth. What started simply as Facebook became a social media empire. But the U.S. Federal Trade Commission says they built that empire by buying smaller upstarts to maintain their monopoly.
So the idea is that, Mark Zuckerberg perceived these competitive threats and sought to neutralize them by acquiring the companies, merging with them.
In 2012, the company bought photo-sharing app Instagram for $1 billion. It purchased the messaging service WhatsApp, reportedly for $19 billion 2 years later. At trial, Zuckerberg and Sandberg are expected to testify about those acquisitions. If Meta is found in violation of antitrust laws, Instagram could end up being spun off from Facebook's parent company.
And you might see competition between those two companies, and that might be good for consumers.
In a statement to the BBC, the company said the FTC's lawsuit against Meta defies reality, adding, the evidence at trial will show what every 17-year-old in the world knows. Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp compete with Chinese-owned TikTok, YouTube, X, iMessage, and many others. The FTC filed its antitrust case against Meta during the first Trump administration. Now, ahead of the trial, the once frosty relationship between Zuckerberg and Trump has thawed. Zuckerberg has lobbied Trump to drop the FTC case, according to the Wall Street Journal, a report Meta didn't deny when approached by the BBC.
This is something that in any prior administration, Democrat or Republican, would have been front-page news for days. But now it's happening out in the open.
FTC Commissioners Alvaro Bedoya and Rebecca Kelly Slaughter, both Democrats, were fired by Trump last month. As they sue to get their jobs back, they say Trump's push to remove them sent a message to those who remain on the commission.
So if they don't want to do a favor for his political allies, they're on the chopping block as well.
If the president told the FTC to drop the Meta lawsuit, its current chair, appointed by Trump, has said he would, quote, obey lawful orders. Lily Jamali, BBC News, San Francisco.
Well, so the Mark Hansen, an attorney for Meta, said that the Federal Trade Commission was making a grab bag of arguments that were wrong, citing that Meta has had plenty of competition. Who's the competition?
Yeah. No, as I'm listening to it, I'm like, okay, you don't think about these things until it comes up.
Yes.
And to me, I always saw Meta as the only option because you can't you're looking. So Meta has Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook.
Those are the big
Those
three.
are the big three, right? So what other social media platform do we use?
Outside of TikTok?
Outside of TikTok, outside of X. The only other two are X and TikTok, really and truly. Snapchat, I think Snapchat is also Meta.
I don't know, I'm not too sure, but who uses Snapchat in this day and age?
No, people still use Snapchat. But it's true, with Meta controlling so many of the bigger platforms, we don't really have other options. Meta, and then when people come out with new platforms, they may trend or be popular for a few weeks, if so long. But then it dies. It dies. Because we always come back to the OGs, the Facebook, Instagram.
We don't have another messaging platform. So outside of the US, right, we only have WhatsApp, especially if you think it in the UK as well. Their default is WhatsApp. In the Caribbean community, our default is WhatsApp.
Yeah.
We don't have any other, we have to use WhatsApp.
Yeah.
So I would argue that it does come across as if it's a monopoly.
Yeah, but then it also begs the question, does it matter? Because if you think about it, Meta has these big platforms that we use every day. It is the #1 platforms or the #1 choice of social media for most people. Then if another company or another individual wants to come up with a new platform for users, I don't see why it's necessary to blame Meta for, I guess, taking up the space, because that's what a niche market is, or that's what when you're creating something, you take up space in a certain market.
But you want to give consumers choice.
And it's okay to, and in order to do that, people have to come up with other options.
But what if every single time they come up with an option, they're bogged down by the I guess, greatness of Meta? Or what if Meta sees, okay, you have a unique product?
But how is that Meta's fault?
Okay,
that's my thing.
But okay, WhatsApp was an independent project. Meta bought it because WhatsApp had something to offer. Instagram as well. They bought it because Instagram had something to offer. So it's like, it's a niche field, and I would agree with you there. But Zuckerberg, as we call him, I don't know if I can say this, but Zuck, he has created a monopoly for himself. And I mean, it's almost like being mad at you because you're winning, being mad at you because you're successful.
And that is it. You can't be mad at Zuckerberg for winning the space because another platform or somebody else or another company can't get to where he is. So to me, the case itself seems, it doesn't fall right, and it doesn't sit right, because he's winning in what he's doing. He has these platforms. He has created a space where he now, and I can't blame him because that's business. He bought Instagram. He bought WhatsApp. He bought WhatsApp, and to me, it all comes together because now when you post on WhatsApp, you have the option of your WhatsApp and Facebook pages are connected, and then now
Threads as well. Threads is connected to Instagram.
So Mark Zuckerberg, he created this thing, Threads, which is so similar to TikTok, and I could understand.
X.
X. Yes, Twitter.
Yeah.
So I could understand where a lawsuit would come in, because why are you doing that? Although Threads did not go as big as Twitter did, but people still use it a lot.
They do.
And when it first came out, it was so popular. It was trending. Everybody was on it. Everybody wanted to see what this was about. But people still went back to Twitter
afterwards.
Because Twitter is the OG for what it is. And while Threads tried to be that, it still didn't do as well as Twitter is doing now. So it just goes to show it doesn't matter. Everybody can try and have a space in something, but it really comes down to the consumer.
It really does. I mean, the FTC's main argument is that Zuckerberg's strategy, which he has coined that this is what he does, it's better to buy than compete.
Yeah.
Facebook has systematically tracked potential rivals and acquired companies. Like that's their strategy. So that's the main complaint of the FTC, backed by Trump, of course.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, we can get into it.
Exactly that. What Musk did, right? Musk bought Twitter. He rebranded Twitter to be portray him.
Yeah.
You know, he changed it to X, and now he's in a competing market.
Yes.
So you can't be vexed. That is business.
That is
That's
capitalism.
how it works. That is capitalism, exactly. So
it's interesting that this is coming from Trump, though. Like it's being fueled from Trump. I know that Zuckerberg tried to. They said that he's trying to cozy up to Trump to kind of settle a lawsuit for less than what they're suing him. Well, not suing him for.
Yeah.
I believe the original cost was about. They're saying $30 billion here, and $1 billion is crazy.
Oh my God.
But he's trying to settle his lawsuit for $450 million, which I mean, like I saw somebody like him is pocket change.
But I just can't understand where the illegal aspect of it comes in. But I guess this is something we could look into more.
I mean, I would hope that if I would create a good product, if I was entering a really competitive market, that I would be given a fair chance, and I wouldn't always be approached by the larger companies to just buy me out.
Yeah.
And I would want to probably be a successful CEO, be the next Mark Zuckerberg, but he doesn't want that. So I guess that's where the not illegal, but I would say moral issue comes in.
Moral, not illegal. I can't understand why. So let's say today I created a new platform that I would like to see flourish, and it's doing well or it's picking up pace, and then a company like Meta decides, hey, this new social media platform is coming about, it's gaining traction.
Yeah.
I don't want that because it's going to affect my own Meta. So let me see how I can buy that company. Let's see if they're willing to sell. Let's see. That's business.
That is.
You know,
That is.
and while it can be morally wrong, I as a business owner would have the option to say, okay, yeah, I want to sell, or yeah, let's work together, or you have options.
Yeah.
So the lawsuit to me just seems like it makes no sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, I hear where you're coming from. I do think that there is a claim to be made. I honestly, I would say I'm on part of the FTC's side.
Yeah.
Not because I want Zuckerberg to suffer. It's just that I don't believe in monopoly, especially in a capitalistic market. We all need to thrive, and that's what I would want.
Well, there's a
personally.
sense of greed involved as well when you think about it, but.
Of course, but I want to leave you guys before we move on. I want to leave you guys with this. Zuckerberg lobbied the Trump administration. He is lobbying the Trump administration to support the deal that they put forward for the $450 million. I think him and Trump had some contention a while ago, but now we're seeing them cozying up to each other. So I would want you guys just to keep a look at how these things work. You know, I want something from you now.
You don't want to say when money pass, anything can happen.
When money pass, anything can happen. So we'll just keep an eye on how that continues to develop.
Okay, so the next order of business, we're looking at President Trump administration how the Trump administration has negatively affect U.S. tourism. So since President Trump's return to office, international tourism to the U.S. has declined sharply. Factors include stringent immigration policies, protectionist trade measures, and heightened border scrutiny, leading to a significant drop in visitors from Europe, Canada, and Latin America. So have a look at this video and we'll discuss after.
Let's talk travel now. Boston's hospitality industry was expecting about 3 million international travelers this year, part of a 9% growth nationwide. But now they say that goal is dead in the water given Trump's policies. The new tariffs make the situation even worse. Boston CEO Martha Sheridan joins us now to continue the conversation. Martha, thanks for taking some time to talk to us about this.
Hi, Glenn. It's nice to be with you.
So when we think about tariffs, Martha, products are top of mind, not travel. How do Trump's tariffs and an escalating trade war impact incoming travel to Boston from other countries?
Well, I think the tariffs impact remains to be seen as far as impacts on pricing in the tourism sector. Obviously, large-scale meetings and conventions could feel the pinch as they purchase a lot of services and goods that could be taxed or tariffed. But I think we're most concerned about the just about the perception of the U.S. right now and whether or not this trade war is impacting our relationships with people from across the globe.
So given that, let's take a look at the new 2025 projections nationally. All international travel expected to be down 9%. And look at the decline from Canada, projected to be down 20% this year. More international travelers come to the U.S. from Canada than any place else. So, Martha, are there mitigation efforts you and your team can do to change that reality we just saw for Boston, or is the negative impact sort of baked in?
Well, we hope it's not baked in, Glenn. I think that we are from a city that is very welcoming to all, so we want to make sure that we can continue to convey that message. As far as Canadian visitors go, obviously, they can drive into Boston, so that's always a positive thing for us. So, you know, we can still try and convince people that we are still just a short car ride away and that we actually do want to welcome them. And we'll continue our efforts to travel around the globe, spread the good word about Boston, and tell people that we are, in fact, a welcoming city. So please give us a try.
And Martha, help people understand how an international traveler has the spending impact in Boston far greater than any other kind of traveler. So in some ways, traveler for traveler, they're more important to the industry.
They are, you know, obviously depending on the region they're coming from, you know, clearly travelers that are coming from Asia, from Australia, come here for a long haul trip. They stay here a lot longer. They spend a lot more money. They take in a lot more destinations than just flying in and out of Boston. So, you know, we don't want to lose you know, the impact of those visitors. And I think what we're also most concerned about, Glenn, are the long-term repercussions of this. We don't know tomorrow what's going to happen to the travel industry. And by the way, we haven't fully recovered yet from the strains that COVID put on us. But, you know, we're very concerned about the long-term impacts. And, you know, we spend a lot of time trying to convince people to visit our great city and our great state, and we don't want to lose any traction there. So we'll keep up our efforts. We want people to keep coming, keep Boston top of mind, but we do have to make sure that international relations are front and center, and we try and repair those on the national front.
Okay, Martha Sheridan, the CEO of Meet Boston. Before you go, though, we want to say congratulations to you for winning the ICON Award today at Boston University. This is for Experience Innovators in the Hospitality Space. You certainly meet that description, Martha, so congratulations to you.
Thank you, Glenn. I appreciate it. Have a good evening.
When I originally heard this, I was saying everybody wants to go to Disneyland. Disney World. Is it Disney World or Disneyland?
There's both.
Both of them?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to go to Disney World once in their life. I want to go to Disney World Paris, not Disney World in Florida anymore. That's no.
Oh my gosh. I know, so I was looking here and there was some incidents that they're talking about that triggered a lot of this.
Yeah.
Just instances, like personal experiences that people are having with regard to traveling to the U.S. So one of them, we see there was an incident where there was a detention of 2 German teenagers in Hawaii. And despite having valid travel documents, it raised concerns about the treatment of international visitors. And because they were detained for no reason, right? And then a Canadian trans musician was also, he canceled his tour in the U.S. Due to some immigration policies that Trump implemented that affected transgender individuals. So that's another issue, and people are starting to boycott.
Yeah. And
because of the unfairness that they claim the U.S. or well, the Trump administration is acting on.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that to some extent. I mean, especially with Trump's huge push to remove DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion clauses. Yeah. So going into some facts here, the Trade Economics Forum for the U.S. forecasted in 2024, at the end of 2024, that there would be a 9% increase in tourism. after a couple of months, Trump went into office, they had to revise it to 5%, a 5% decrease. Wow. That results in about, in terms of, that resulted in about a loss of $64 billion into their economy, a projected cost, of course. From Canada to the US, airline flights are down 70%. I mean, Trump said that he wanted to basically colonize, take Canada have it become the next state.
Yeah. No,
I don't want to go there anymore, because what do you mean? What are you devaluing my country, devaluing me as a Canadian citizen? I don't think he realizes that his comments, it doesn't just affect the economy, it affects people's personal view of the U.S.
Yeah, because, well, he is the U.S., so
exactly,
he represents everybody. He represents what the country stands for. And if that's what it is, then the thing is, I saw a post recently, somebody saying that cancel culture no longer exists.
And it never existed, in my opinion.
No, it did, because people have so much power when it comes to cancel culture, when it comes to deciding whether or not somebody or a business or a country is still worth it.
Yeah, I mean, the U.S., I don't want to say it's been on a steady decline, I don't think that, but I think people are waking up to the fact that it's not, I mean, that's the reason why Donald Trump's slogan is "Make America Great Again." People don't view it as, you know, this great American economy or whatever. And I don't think he realizes that he's right, at least right now, he's doing more harm to his slogan, to his promise, than good.
Yeah.
I don't know if he realizes.
He has a vision, and even though there are certain things that he's doing, it may not, he may not be doing it in the right way to you know, execute his plan, execute his vision. But I think that it's a case where we kind of have to trust the process, even though, you know, what is that doing for us, really? In a sense.
Yeah.
What is the whole point of it, where, because people are still, Trinidadians are still going to go to the U.S.
Yeah.
So this is not something I think will affect us. That's why most of these declines you're finding in, well, Canada, because they have a little...
They're right next to each other.
Yeah,
they're
and they have that
friends
going on, that little argument, that little tit for tat going on right now.
But the thing is, with Trinidadians, honestly, we have such a carefree type of culture to the point where...
And we don't study things too much.
Exactly. Things can be really, really bad and good. And I like that about Trinidadians. We're not going to take it on too much. But we're gonna feel it. Because if the U.S. loses money, the U.S. is the hub for everyone else. It just naturally is like that right now. If they lose money, we all lose money.
Yeah.
Right? If they have they're on a sharp decline, somebody else has to rise. The country, one country has to rise as the I don't want to say the king, I don't like that language at all.
But yeah, I get you.
The country that has the better economy, better political stability, and I mean, what country is that now? Is it going to be China? It can't be Russia, and the amount of wars they're in, but maybe it could be China, I mean, I don't know if you saw the TikToks.
I think China would like it to be them. Definitely.
I don't know if you saw the TikToks where, you know how Donald Trump engaged China in a little tariff trade war, and some Chinese business people were putting out TikToks of, well, this was made in China. The same hats that Donald Trump puts "Make America Great" on, it was made in China.
Yeah.
Put the back, made in China. You know, his merch made in China. And not just that, these designer luxury bags
made in China.
Made in China. Right, and then they just stamp, it goes to other countries and then they stamp their label on it. So, I mean, it's kind of showcasing that the U.S. is almost kind of losing its
losing its grip on the world.
Yeah.
And we just have to hope that it does not reach to a point where they have lost it completely.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it would be good for anybody if they lose it completely.
Yeah, because
unfortunately,
again, they are the hub right now. But I wanted to just go back to when you were saying something about cancel culture. I just wanted to, because I know some of our viewers might not be fully aware with the Gen Z Gen Z slang. So cancel culture is just where we take an individual who, or a party or an organization who has done something morally incorrect in the eyes of the public, and we hold them to account. Sometimes it's a bit more harsh than what's like the punishment is harsher than the crime.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's just holding people to a certain level of account.
To their actions, and it also leads to boycotting. So I know, and I hope, well, boycotting you avoid purchasing, avoid associating with on all levels. So that's basically what this is.
Yeah.
To me, when I saw this, I'm like, okay,
we're cancelling the US.
We're cancelling the US. That's what's happening here.
By the way, I'm just telling you, we can't afford to cancel the US, but I do think that it is important to hold them to a certain, I mean, at least Trump, to a certain level of accounts. I mean, we have this, Trump is a polarizing figure, and you know me, I will speak in both. Trump is a very polarizing figure, and a lot of people don't dislike him, but at the end of the day, he is the president, so we have to wish him the best. We have to say, okay, well, we really hope that we hold you to account, yes, we really hope that you do the right thing, because at the end of the day, your signature can start wars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we could just move swiftly. I feel like that was a lot. That was Trump. When Biden was in office, we barely got news out of him. Trump, from the first day he hit that Oval Office.
From day one, it was like headline, Trump.
Yes, I was actually listening to a podcast, Andrew Schultz's podcast this morning. He had Pete Buttigieg on, and Pete was saying that, what was he saying? Something about Trump, that a lot of deals, a lot of things that are important, that should be important in the media, has gone, it's not covered anymore.
Right.
So a lot of things that they've been calling for, important things that the public should know about, the media isn't even getting time to cover.
Because there's so many things.
There's so many,
and that's what I said, like, people are beginning to, it almost seems as if people are beginning to get tired. And I think the media is now so overworked that looking at these headlines, because when I look at international news and I'm trying to find an international story, whether it's on the BBC, whether it's on France 24, whether it's on CNN, I get so overwhelmed because everything, it's either the war in Ukraine and Russia or Trump. And you see, and especially that word tariff, oh my gosh, it's on everything.
At the end of the year, tariff is probably going to be the world's most searched word. Yeah. And then we have poor Al Jazeera, the only one that's probably covering the conflict in Gaza right now.
Yeah.
Al Jazeera.
No, and that's the next thing. Trump is doing so much, and there's so much headlines and stories to cover about him that we have completely kind of
we've lost the plot, as we say in Gen Z slang. We've lost the plot.
But there's still war. There's still things going on in Gaza, between Gaza and Israel.
Yes,
and we have kind of we've lost our way in terms of following that story, what's going on there, because there's so many other things now.
And I will be honest,
and it keeps coming.
It keeps coming. I'll be honest. Sometimes I'm deathly afraid to even try and cover the conflict that's going on in Gaza, because I don't even know to call it a war, to call it a conflict, because there's so many differing opinions on that, and I don't want to go into it right now, but maybe we could probably bring somebody on, like an expert, to talk about it a little bit more, because it is something that we should be covering. It's still going on. I think some members of the CARICOM community, some advocates, would have actually had a meeting with some of the advocates over there in Gaza. I don't know if you know, this girl, she was all over TikTok when it was in the heat of the bombing from Israel into the Gaza Strip. Bisan. She was one of the top leading voices. She would show you videos, she would show you, let you hear audio, and she would give her point of view on what exactly was happening. She was doing real journalism. And the thing is, she's not even a journalist, but she was doing real journalism there. And the Caribbean community, they were trying to connect with her. We're trying to connect with her. So just one more update for you guys before we jump into our interview for the day. Officials, this is sort of negative news, but it's happened a couple of weeks ago, but we still wanted to cover it. Officials end the search for the survivors of a nightclub rooftop collapse in the Dominican Republic. It's the biggest tragedy to strike the Dominican Republic in recent history. On Tuesday, April 8th, dust from a nightclub rooftop called the Jet Set began falling into people's drinks. Minutes later, the concrete ceiling collapsed onto the crowd, claiming the lives of reportedly over 200 people. And a little less than 3 days later, April 11th, efforts transformed from life-saving to recovery. Take a look.
Now, rescue workers in the Dominican Republic have ended their search for survivors of a nightclub roof collapse. Officials say that 218 bodies have now been recovered from the Jet Set Club in Santo Domingo. The roof came down in the early hours of Tuesday during a concert by a well-known merengue singer, Ruby Perez. He was among those killed. It is the Caribbean country's worst disaster in decades. Well, we can cross over to speak to Will Grant, who's in Santo Domingo, the capital of the Dominican Republic, and a really difficult day there, Will.
Yeah, it really has been a difficult few days, and now the authorities are essentially bowing to the inevitable with this situation. It has moved officially from a search and rescue operation seeking survivors to officially a recovery operation of the victims' bodies. In that sense, that reflects the fact that 218 people are known to have died in the collapse of the nightclub behind me, the Jet Set nightclub. Just hugely shocking, as you said in your introduction. Now the worst such accident in Dominican history, and the family members who are here waiting for that news, unfortunately, have now received that tragic news, or indeed identified the bodies of their relatives in a sort of makeshift morgue that's just to one side of the building.
And Will, when it comes to the venue itself, is there an understanding of how this happened?
Well, that is what the question will be now that this has moved into the recovery phase. I think the questions are going to ramp up onto exactly why this took place, how it happened. A lot of fingers of blame are being pointed at a fire that took place here in 2023. The question being, of course, were the proper repairs carried out at the time? Was too much weight placed onto a vulnerable roof? Was the entire building structurally compromised and not made safe? The owner of the nightclub has flown into the Dominican Republic from the United States, living to continue, he says, to comply with the authorities. He says that he and his team, management team, have been completely transparent with the investigations and intend to remain so. But of course, extremely tough questions. I spoke to the mayor of this municipality, and she said the families themselves would keep the pressure on to find the answers to those questions.
Will Grant, as always, thank you very much. Will Grant there in Santo Domingo, the capital of the Dominican Republic. Thank you.
All right, so all we can do right now is just offer our condolences for the lives that were lost. It was a lot of people that lost their lives. The death toll, believe it was climbing up to a point before it stopped, so it didn't end at 200 and at 220. It didn't end at that. So yeah, that's tough.
I have no words, honestly.
Yeah, it's just a tragedy.
It's sad. It's sad, you know. You go out at night out to enjoy yourself. It probably had tourists there,
yeah.
You know, and for something like that to happen, you're not expecting it.
Mm-hmm.
You have in the story. I know they said it started off. They're in the club, drinks in hand, and dust begins to fall.
Yeah.
And they're just, and you're like confused. You don't know what's happening, and then
all of a sudden, the ceiling,
that is
the world collapses on you.
Yeah, that. If you look at it, that was a total collapse of the roof, of the ceiling.
That is, it's absolutely crazy. But I mean, all we can do again is offer our condolences at this point, and hope that, and because they said that it hasn't been confirmed as yet, but due to some misguided repairs in 2023 from the fire.
From a fire.
So just continue to keep eyes on that, and yeah. Up next, we do have something a bit lighter. We are joined by Michael Haddad of the Grind to Greatness Run Club. So stay with us. We'll be right back with you.
My name is Dr. Stephen Carroll, the CEO at Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist, and we are committed to making good private healthcare affordable.
For all your medical needs, including dental, radiology, laparoscopy, behavioral and mental health, along with many other services, contact us for more information at 235-5479.
Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity, from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Our award-winning show is back, and this season promises to be even more exciting than before. What's Up, Doc isn't just a title. It's a call to action for anyone who wants to improve their health and well-being. Join us on this thrilling ride towards better health on WESN Content Capital.
This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for, it's called loss and damage. And we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region.
Man is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. I mean, and Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
And we are back. As we said before, we are being joined by Michael Haddad of the Grinded to Greatness Run Club. So running, walking, chipping, crawling, and community-driven motivation. One local initiative is helping people lace up with purpose. The Grind to Greatness Run Club is where it's not just about running, it's about building discipline, encouraging consistency, and creating a space where every stride brings you closer to your goals and to others. Today, we're joined by the founder of this inspiring movement, Michael, who's here to share the journey behind the club, the stories that fuel it, and how it's impacting lives one by one, one run at a time. So, Michael, welcome.
Thank you. So, Jada and Naomi, and firstly, I just want to say thank you. Thanks, Wesn, for bringing me on the show and letting me tell my story. So just to get it started, I guess you could ask first.
Well, I guess we were going down that line anyway. Yeah, so who is Michael Haddad and what inspired you to start Grind to Greatness?
So I always loved sports. I grew up playing football, and with football comes running. And then I stopped football due to COVID. I started going to the gym, and then I started incorporating running in my routine. I love running. It's one of the best forms of exercising, in my opinion, getting outdoors. So the reason behind G2G was they had no run club in Trinidad. I noticed a gap between people wanting to work out and not feeling safe enough. Well, more on the female side, not feeling safe enough and intimidated, feeling judged, and a lot of competitive running groups, I want to say. So G2G is a very easy, anybody, you could come, run, walk, crawl, is there anything you want to do, you're doing in G2G. And I just wanted to be a welcoming space for anybody. You know, you never ran before you come into G2G and you're running, trying new things and all improving together as a group.
Yeah. So how would you describe G2G's mission or core philosophy?
I would describe G2G as easy. And our mission is just to get people moving together, see new faces, meet new people, and improve together. Simple. That's it. Just get moving and improve yourself all together.
The use of the word grind kind of throws me off. So grind to greatness, where did that even come from?
That just came from me sitting down thinking of ideas. I wanted something easy and smooth, so G2G came to my mind. I'm a person who loves, they have a little tagline called Embrace the Journey, which we use, which I use in my whole life. I think you should always enjoy the journey, embrace everything that comes with the journey, embrace the bad, embrace the good. So the grind kind of just felt good, you know, felt right. Just grind through everything, embrace it, enjoy the bad, enjoy the good, and just go through it, you know, grind through it, and you'll get through it.
Yeah. Let's talk about the response, the initial response when you started G2G. So when it first launched, what was the response of persons like coming into the club?
Well, it was way, way better than I could have ever imagined. People loved it. The first run was more of my family and friends rather than outsiders or new people. But the second and third and fourth, and now we're on the fifth, going into the sixth this Sunday. It's unbelievable to see how the public and people I never even talked to, never saw nothing, just word of mouth and people seeing the Instagram has come into G2G and it's growing like wildfire. Last run we had around 200 people. This run I could expect 300, 350 people.
You guys hearing that?
I just want to say, I'll say this recently. Before I knew about G2G, one of my girlfriends, she messaged me last week So she's like, I found this run club. I want to do it. Can you come and do it with me? And I didn't even know this was a thing. Unfortunately, I didn't go. But I told her I'll come with you next time. So you'll probably see me there soon. But I'm like, okay. She was so excited about it, and I loved the initiative because she loves to run. But she would usually either go run by herself, or I'll try to go with her around the savannah. So when she found this run club, she was so excited when she came to me with it, and she was like, I've never seen anything like this before. I really want to try it. But she was nervous to go by herself, even though it's in a big group. But once she went and I messaged her, hey, how was it? She said, girl, I really enjoyed it. Like everybody made me feel comfortable. She made friends on the run, and it was the initiative itself was so opening and welcoming. So I love the what it does, and I hope it continues to grow as much as it can.
But even on that, so say you go by yourself, especially if you're a female, it's kind of difficult to find a place where you fit in. How exactly do you create that open space for people? Yeah,
so everybody there is very open. Obviously, you'll have the people shy and scared to come in because it is a big group, and a lot of people talking, and people who come week by week obviously know each other. But what I try to do to make that less daunting and intimidating for new people is I go around, and me and a few of my friends go around and greet new people and say, come in this group, or come in here, let's go, or run with us in a way. And we go for coffee after, sometimes at Starbucks. Last week we went to UPIC because we were in Chaguaramas running. So I always encourage people, come after and come lime and come, get a coffee with us, because that promotes connection, and we get to talk more. That's how we build our bonds. And all it is just going around and talking to them, making them feel like they're part of this movement. And
how do you think running or exercise kind of fosters that connection among people?
Yeah, so that's a good question, actually. I like that, because running specifically is a lot of hardship and a lot of pain, and it sucks, and you go through it. And running with people is something special. Both of y'all going through this struggle and finishing this 5K, that feeling is unmatched. So going through that with people, especially new people, is something that builds a special bond. And you're running together and talking, and oh God, this is so tiring, and and then you'll finish your run, and it's a sense of, yes, we finished together, it's great. So I think that going through something together and coming out on top, finishing the 5K, something special, it builds something different.
Okay, so going into the logistics of how this works, how often do you guys do it? Is it always 5K, or can people do less, more?
Well, as of right now, it is always 5K, but in the future, not in the future actually, not this run, but next run, I was going to announce it on the thing, but I guess everyone here gets an early thing. So it's weekly. Sometimes we do 2 a week, but weekend is always Saturday or Sunday. I'll confirm like a week before, 5-6 days before. I'll confirm date, time, location, what activities after. And in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be doing 5, 8, and 10K. So stop whenever you want is the thing. I'll go in more depth in it on Instagram. But 5, 8, and 10K, and just stop whenever you want,
So with the 5K first, because that's what y'all have done so far, what has been if an individual, because people who come to the club, I would assume it might be someone who just wants to try something new. They're not accustomed to running, but maybe they want to, better their life physically and,
even socially.
Yeah. So if an individual was to stop before the 5K is finished, do you all have is it like, okay, well, I'm tired, I'm stopped by, or do you all kind of try to get everybody to finish at the same time, try to ensure that everybody finishes at least, whether it be somebody might finish, and a 5K might take, what, 15 minutes?
Well, it finishes from, the first person would finish around like 24, 23 minutes.
Okay.
And then the last would come in around, I want to say like 45.
Right. So do you all ensure that everybody gets to the end?
Yeah,
Okay.
we do. So, well, I can't mark every single person's face and make sure they cross, but with the kind of runs, you can't really veer off. You know, they'll always have someone in your little running/walking crew and pushing you along. That's the great thing about G2G and run clubs in general, is they'll always have someone at your pace.
So you could walk too?
Yeah, you could walk. Initially, it wasn't you could walk, but then people run, walk, and could I come and walk? And yeah, come, anything is anything. You know, you're improving yourself, and that's it. So I should change the name to run/walk.
I think you should keep it as a run club, because I think it would interest people to, even if you start off walking, you could even run.
It's a motivation, I'd say. So how does the club support, or does the club support, you know, mental health and emotional well-being? Because I know running is a great form of just kind of letting off steam. Usually when people feel stressed, they're like, okay, I'm going to go for a run. So did you kind of know that this would, or want this to be a sort of an escape for people?
Yeah, I think I didn't think of that initially, but when I started seeing people coming out and trying this new thing, some people never ran before. Some people actually told me they didn't like try something new in a few months. So coming out and trying something new and waking up at 6:30, well, 5:30, some people traveling from south and all over the country to come to the savannah, waking up and trying something new, getting yourself out of bed, going outdoors and running and meeting new people. All of those things compound, and I think 100% that all of those things help your mental, and all of those things after a long period of time, if you get that in your routine and every Saturday, every Sunday you're doing it, it will positively affect your mental health, and it would be great for you overall. So I didn't think initially that, you know, I'm making this run club for people to kind of escape or anything. It was just for people to get moving and improve their body and fitness more than anything. But as time went on, for sure, I could see people happy after the runs, and we go in for coffee and we talking, and it's great. It's real great.
So let's talk impact, because it seems as though you didn't even plan for it to get as big as it is now, and obviously where it's going to go. So you're just somebody who started something because you had a passion for it, and now it's blown up.
Yes.
So let's talk impact. Have you heard from people about maybe how it's transformed their routine, their lives in a way? They've met more people?
Yeah, well, a lot of people talk to me and thank me, and after the runs thank me, like, this is my home. You know, come up to me and thank you so much for doing this for us. You could see the gap between people really wanting to do this and they didn't have anywhere to do this. People give amazing gratitude. It's like unbelievable how thankful people are. Coming to me, coming to my mom, serving coffee at some of the runs and thing, and just thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate you. I didn't get anybody talking about changing their routine as yet, but
not yet, because you just started recently.
Yeah, a month and a bit now. But I'm sure in the next few runs, we'll have some of that. But people are loving it, and I'm loving people see it. I mean, I'm loving people loving it.
Yeah. So staying on the topic of impact, have you collaborated with any organizations or initiatives, or do you have any plans to collaborate with anybody?
Yes, so us and Starbucks did a few collaborations, so Run and Coffee. I did a collab with two guys called, their Instagram is Hybrid Performance, I'm pretty sure, and they distribute energy gels, and they brought a few of these waffles called energy waffles or something like that, Stinger waffles, and distributed it. Now, this Sunday, we actually are teaming up with Extra Miles Events, and they're doing electronic timing in our run. So you sign this form, which is in G2G's bio, and you get a race bib on Sunday when you come to the run in the morning, and you run with this bib, and it's just like a race. You get your official time, no medals sadly, but you get your official time. And yeah, so they sponsored us fully and for this run. So thank you, Extra Miles Events.
That's amazing. So I want to ask now, would you, does it have the potential or the room to, say, run in a different location, to do runs in other locations, as in other parts of the country? So not just in the West, but if you go south, if you go east, you know, just to, I guess, expand or
and even
make it a little bit more inclusive, you know, whether you'll say, okay, we're running in Palm East or, you know.
Yeah, for sure. I'm honestly open to anything, and I've had people reach out to me from east and south both, and commenting on the post, when you come in east, when you come in south.
Right,
and, so I'm completely open to it. I reached out to them and said, like, give me a few weeks, give me a few months, because that would take a bit more planning, and I want to build a bit more up before we do that. But 100% will happen, and 100% open to it. I love anything new. I love trying things, and yeah, that would expand the group more and expand people, and yeah, I love it.
Partner with Wesn Transport and get some PTSD buses to go all over, because I wanted to ask a question about carpooling, because if you say you're going from running to Starbucks, is there that sort of togetherness as yet? Any trust with that as yet, or?
So not everyone will come from the run to the coffee. I would say, hypothetically, we have a run tomorrow morning, not actually hypothetically, but we have a run tomorrow morning, 100 people come to the run. I would say 40 people will come to Starbucks. We haven't had a problem yet with parking, but this Sunday is going to be real stress, because last 2 weeks ago, we did a run in the same exact location with 150 people, and that was the capacity, and this run I'm estimating like 350 people, so I really don't know how that's gonna.
So I mean, you would have to get I don't know the procedure in terms of doing something like this. Do you all need police and escort, especially if you're running on the road?
No, we're not on the road.
Okay.
So our two runs, our two locations has been the Savannah, which we all run on the pavement, which is pretty hard, like we fill up the whole thing, but the pavement, and Chaguaramas, we ran around the golf course.
Okay.
So it's not on the road.
So how do you know it was about 150 people? Do they have to sign up beforehand? Or?
No sign up needed, no nothing needed. This is just me going off of pictures. So we take a big group picture, I'm sure you saw it before.
Yes.
And this is just head counts, so it could be more.
It's like you can be missing some people.
Yeah, because people going in the back and hiding. You know how it is.
That is a lot, because the way I came across you guys was from one of my friends. His story was him doing an ice bath.
Yes. That was
Tell us the story behind that.
Okay, so I love ice baths. I love running, I love ice baths. And not a lot of people ice bath. Well, now when the world is getting more popular, but Trinidad, not really. So I have 2 rotoplastic ice tubs at home. My friend has one, my cousin has one, my friend have one, you know. So I was thinking, why don't I just bring together all of these tubs, ask them if I could borrow their tubs, and ask for sponsorship of ice, which I got, thank you, Ice Pro. And let people try something new, you know, come out of their comfort zone, try ice bathing, which also sucks, but it is the best feeling ever. So this Sunday, we also have ice again, if you all want to come and try,
I don't know.
It's daunting, but it's amazing. The first 2 minutes is
and I
terrible.
imagine after a run, doing an ice bath is probably the best thing for your body, for your muscles, for your joints. It works. I've never done an ice bath, but I've heard stories, and I know a lot of trainers also encourage doing ice baths after the gym, after a strenuous workout.
I have to say, this is a very, it's a very cool initiative, and it's something that I I want to do. I've been wanting to do for a while, ever since I heard of it. I don't know how to do the ice bath, but I'd have to be. I'd have to be like a mama guidance to doing that. Yeah. But I mean, I do think it's a great initiative. So imagine somebody like me. I don't run often, but what about people who say they're not runners but they're interested? How do you like take them from point A to point? Come run with me.
Yeah, well, it's actually simple. I just tell them that a lot of people just like them are doing it, which is true. A lot of people who never ran, a lot of people who just walk, a lot of people who jog very slow, a lot of people who jog fast. So they'll always have somebody there who's kind of in the same thought process of you of, oh gosh, I'd really run. I only kind of walk, and they'll have someone next to you throughout the whole run, and if they do, well, there's a problem, because they will have somebody. And yeah, you just go on your own pace. There's no pressure. There's no, where like nobody's watching you at the finish line. Oh, look at you. Nothing, nothing like that. People finish and go about their way, and that's it. Nobody's worrying about you. You come and do what you could do, and that's it.
Yeah.
Proud of yourself.
Do y'all have any medics or medical persons? Okay.
No medics or medical people. I don't think I would go into that kind of part, because then I would have to, it would be more like I'm liable for you.
Right.
And it's kind of just a group where anybody could come. You could be running and joining, you know.
Well, I would suggest though, and just off of thought now, so to have, I don't know if you have it, so having a form for each individual to fill out. So now you can keep track of how many people actually do come to the run, and then they fill out this form, kind of like a disclaimer or a waiver, where now you are not liable, and you have it in writing that you're not liable. You are responsible. Stay at your own pace. You know, listen to your body. These are things that you can give to the people that come to the club, because I think it is important. Because some people push themselves. I know, me especially, I tend to push myself. I would go and run, and I will say, no, I want to do it. I'll push myself, and then now you're lightheaded. You kill out yourself. Some people, and everybody's different. I have a friend, she would go and run. She would not eat before she goes for a run, but she can handle it. No, but she handles it well. If I don't eat before,
that's it.
I'm out. So yeah, I think that's just my suggestion. And I think it would also help kind of keeping track, because instead of head counting from a picture, you can keep track. A small form, a short, really, really short form, online form.
And it also shows growth. Because this is going places that I don't even think you can conceive, and I can't even conceive. But I wanted to switch the conversation to you as an individual. So you mentioned routine a bit earlier. So why is routine important?
Yeah, well, I'm a big routine guy. In my whole life, since I was young, I'm all about routine. I have to, I mean, it could fall under a little bit of OCD, but waking up at this time, I set it the night before, but if I say I'm waking up at 6, I'm waking up at 6. I'm out my house by 7, this by 8, back home by 9, and everything is planned out, and everything will go down to the T, because that's just the person I am. My father's the same way. Everything has to be perfect, you know, in my mind.
You have to have control.
Yeah, not so much control. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
All right. So in terms of your family, like, how do you guys come together? Is this a family mission, or did you just?
What, like G2G?
Yeah.
Or just, no, this is just me alone sitting on my bed one night, and my brother was in next room. We actually went up to Paramin together, and I had this idea for the whole day. I want to start a run club, and he's a guy to be just do it, you know? So I was like, boy, Xander is his name. I was like, Xander, I really want to start this run club. He literally told me do it. I have my notebook here. I went on my notebook, started names. I have EMX, all kind of names I wrote down. I had colors for the logo, and I just did it right there. The next day I started the Instagram. Next day I made the first post, and that's just how it went.
So how do you plan the routes?
Yeah, so I mapped them out on Strava, which is a app you could track your workouts with. I'm pretty sure they have literally any workout you could think of. So swimming, biking, running, gym, anything. So I use their map, and they have a mapping tool where you could cut out a certain area. So I'll cut areas out, and then I'll ask around, you ever did this route, you ever did this route, to my runner friends. And if I didn't do it, I'm sure someone else in my kind of crew did it. And then I'll go a day or two before, I'll check the route, make sure there's no road works or no nothing that could go wrong. And then the day of, people show up, I give them a rundown, and I'm posting the route days on my story upcoming to the run. The day of the run, I'll stand in the middle of everybody, I'll say hi, thank you all for coming. Just give my little 2 cents, and then I'll tell them the route starts at this point. We're doing 1.5 laps or whatever it may be, and we meet back right here. If you get lost, just look around, they'll have somebody there. Yeah, that's it.
All right, and I just wanted to clarify for everybody, there's no cost attached.
No cost, no sign up, no nothing. And you're getting free things too. Plenty people. So this actually, I don't want to talk on this Sunday because a few still in confirmation, but other Sundays, all of the coffee is sponsored, all of the gels, everything is sponsored. You're getting the ice baths, you're getting lollies, you're getting yogurt. Chobani actually brought a few of the flips. I don't know if you know what they are, but last run in Shag. And we have a few exciting ones for this Sunday. Hopefully they go through. So look out on the Instagram.
So I know I'll probably, because my girlfriend, she will definitely message me because this is her thing now. So she will message me again. So I'll probably try my best to go. But it's that early morning thing that the weekend is like, I want to sleep in a little extra because I'm here every morning. I leave home at 5 every morning. So come here for 6. So I'm like, okay.
Maybe the sleep would be better.
Yeah,
tired, just
but
like
I'll definitely try my best because I am intrigued and I want to see what is the excitement about. I mean, it sounds really good. It sounds. I love the idea of not being a runner. You don't have to have any specific level of fitness. It's just come, do your best. And when you finish, you do feel good. Because when I do the Savannah, like last week, I ran the Savannah, and usually I would do the Savannah in an hour, which is embarrassing to say. But last week, I did the Savannah in 30 minutes. And I was so proud of myself. I was like, and my girlfriend was there with me, but she does the Savannah in like 12 minutes. Whoa. So it was... But it was a good accomplishment, so I can imagine something like this. I've never done 5K. So I think this would be exciting. You should come.
Yeah,
let's go and see. But
I want to.
Would you consider expanding to apart from running to other forms of exercise?
I never thought about that. Maybe, but we do have trail runs planned, so I guess that could fall under hiking. But I don't know about.
Because I'm thinking, okay, so G2G, grind to greatness, right? But you do running, and then the hiking thing would be a good option as well. But then, what if you also incorporate swimming?
Yeah, we could.
You know,
we could.
And whether
she's a swimmer, so
I love swimming. Yeah,
I just started swimming actually.
Swimming is a great form of exercise, and if you're looking at grinding, could be anything. So you're running, you're hiking, you're swimming, you're aerobics, you know, just any form where you're constantly moving and you have to keep pushing yourself. So, but I guess you swimming you would have to put a lot more planning into that because if you can't swim, some people could say this can swim, but they can't.
Maybe that could maybe come in the future, but I now remembered we are planning to have a few yoga and Pilates classes after.
Now you're talking.
After the run.
After the run. So run and then yoga, run and then Pilates led classes by, I wouldn't say any names yet, but
Well, that's fine. I think this is a good idea. I mean, even probably incorporating sports as it is your passion as well. So personally for you, what's next for you? How long do you want to keep this going for? Plans?
Where do you see G2G next, like 2 to 5 years?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people don't know this. I am 18 and I go to university in Florida in approximately 5 months. So I had no idea this run club would get so big, but now I've made up my mind that I'm not stopping it. And when I'm away, I'll have people here running it. I will still run the social media, but it's not stopping. It's gonna keep growing no matter what. I'm 100% sure about that. They'll keep having activities. Absolutely nothing will change when I'm gone. I have people in place here. I have a lot of things in place where it will keep running by itself. I'll run the social media and we're gonna keep growing. Community is gonna keep getting bigger.
G2G Florida.
G2G Florida, exactly. That's actually, I'll show you my notebook after. I have,
That's good, man. I love the plans that you have. So we do have to start a wrap, but I wanted to ask contact information. How can people support? How can people get in contact with you?
So G2G has an email if you want to contact G2G for any samples, any nice things you want to bring to the run or whatever it may be, which is g2grunclub@gmail.com. Our Instagram is g2grunclub. And that is all G2G to the world. And we're going to keep growing.
I don't think we mentioned this, but the club itself is open to all ages. And kids can people, adults bring their kids?
You could bring your kids, you could bring your dogs, you could bring your cats, anything you want to bring, you could bring. Your monkeys,
You could bring anything. All right. So, any last words you want to leave with the viewers? Anybody?
Any words of encouragement? You know, come and run.
So just embrace the journey. Come to G2G and enjoy the pain. This Sunday at 6:30 a.m. is our next run. We're having ice baths, coffee, and just fun activities. A lot of samples and things you could try. So come and try something new. It's gonna suck, but enjoy it. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all there. Thank you all for the support. We, WESN, Jada and Naomi, thank you all for this. I appreciate it.
Of course.
And
thank you for coming on and for sharing your mission.
It
is a great one.
Thank you.
All right, so that was Michael Haddad of the Grind to Greatness Run Club. That kind of brings our show to an end for the day. So happy Thursday to all of you, as we say. Remember to live your life with purpose, and as usual, we like to leave you with a little quote to propel your day into greatness. This one is by the late actress, dancer, entertainer, beauty icon, all-rounder, Audrey Hepburn. Nothing is impossible. In fact, the word itself screams, I'm possible. Again, it's short and it's sweet, but I think it's really encouraging. I really needed that today.
I enjoyed listening to that quote, and you know, so go out there and just have a great day. Stay safe, stay inspired, and we'll
as
see
always,
you.
remember you can find us on WESNCC, YouTube, Facebook, and even our website. Leave your comments so that you can engage with us and show your support. As she was saying, have a good day.
We'll see you back here again tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
WESN.
Hi, I'm Claudette, radiographer at the radiology departments at the community hospital. We offer high-quality service with state-of-the-art equipment in X-ray, ultrasound, CT, and mammogram. Come, our friendly staff awaits you.
Give us a call at 235-5479.
The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
Hey!
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
The home of Caribbean content is growing, and we welcome you to be a part of the #1 platform for young personalities who are driven to make a positive impact in society. As we continue to reach every corner of Trinidad and Tobago through our daily broadcasts, our social media pages, or through our 75+ digital billboards across the nation, contact us to learn about our competitive rates via marketing at wesncc.com or call us at 628-5835. WESN Content Capital, television with a difference.
Good day, good people, wherever you might be at this time. I have with me in studio two outstanding patriots, two people who have been integral to the development of Mother Trinidad and Tobago, certainly in the last 2 to 3 decades. And they bring with them a lot of information about the politics and governance in Trinidad and Tobago. I speak of, in the first instance, of Professor Selwyn Kojo, and I speak in second instance of John Jeremy, whom, as you know, was the former Attorney General, and he also did a tour of duty at the Court of St. James as our High Commissioner. Both men are here this evening, and I certainly invited them because I want to talk a little bit about where we are with the politics and to hear their views, but to hopefully get from them some of the developments that I sense are taking place with regard to the People's National Movement, their party, and the rest of the country. I want to raise the first question I would like to ask of Mr. Jeremy. John, if I may. You have been silent politically. What are your views about the state of affairs of your party, the People's National Movement?
Well, I should like to begin by stating that I am no longer a member of the People's National Movement.
Are you serious about that?
Yes, I am. I resigned from the party, I believe, in May of 2024.
Okay.
Now, that answer, I think, would say something about my own personal assessment of the state of the party and the state of its politics. Now, as far as the state of the party is concerned, I became increasingly nervous about the party's political philosophy after I heard a remark by its past leader on one of the national television stations. And that remark, I don't remember it exactly, but the words were to the effect that the party or the model that we should follow as a country should envisage the rich becoming richer and the poor being lifted up as a consequence of the rich becoming richer. Now, that statement I felt was at odds with the core principles of the founder of the PNM, who stated the PNM's purpose at a special convention to be to lift up, to add nobility to lowly caste and to lift up lowly classes, despise races, or despise colors, I think he used at the time. Now, those two statements cannot be reconciled, and there was no apology by the person who uttered those statements. I then saw with increasing alarm that the party's focus tended to reflect the abandonment of a large section of its traditional and core base. And I, having become disenchanted with them, and I believe them with me, I thought that there was no useful purpose to be served by remaining a member of the party. And with some sorrow, I tendered my resignation. I never even got...
So I want you to hold a thought there. Let me establish the bona fides here at the circle. Professor Kojo, are you still a member of the PNM?
Yes, I am.
If you're still a member of the PNM, how then do you reconcile your weekly column that speaks about the leader of grief?
There's nothing to reconcile. He's failed the people of the party, he's failed the country, and he's particularly failed black people. So you don't just drop out. You take him on wherever he needs to be taken on.
So that from the perspective of both Kojo and Jeremy, we have had a party that has been leaderless for some time.
Not leaderless. I think that John talked about. I think he got to a fundamental position when Williams came into power. He had three major documents: one on constitutional reform, the other on economics, and another one I don't remember. And the PNM has stood for me, as I understand it, for the lowly, as John says, but for those who do not have. Williams' thing, the whole question of nationalism, was to rise up those people who are in the most lowly of straits. And gradually began to get away from that. But I think when we got to the leader for grief, it was most obvious. And when he said that statement, what he was saying was defying any sense of progressive legislation or economic theory that deals with how you free a people into just let them have their own development, their own self-management, their own recognition of their own selves. And so that's what's reprehensible. But I just stayed at stand fight. I'm not a member of any of the groups. I have a Tiger group, yes. I'm not in the general council.
Do you still have a party card? Do you hold a party card?
Yes, I have a party card.
Now, tell me, gentlemen, in a sense, you are suggesting to me that the state of affairs within the PNM is perhaps at an all-time low, because you're saying to me it is failing in fulfilling fundamentals.
But at the most fundamental level, you have a party, you have a constitution. The highest level of the party's governance is the National Convention. The National Convention comes up and the leader for grief says we shall not have it because he has in his pocket someone who wants to crown. And not one of the 21 members who are in Parliament or the General says no, that goes against who and what we are, which means a diminishment of democracy within the party to advance the desires of one person. That's an oligarchy. It's not a democracy. And what I've learned from Eric Williams and Sarah James, that the whole thrust must be to democratize the party in terms of each one having a right to stand for his own view, even though we may disagree.
So let me understand it, John, let me understand it, Professor Kojo. You're saying that the PNM is in a state of turmoil?
Not turmoil and demoralization. It's not a democratic party anymore.
So I'm trying to understand the importance of democracy to the state of affairs of a political institution like the PNM.
Well, I mean, a party, unless the party itself is a manifestation of the larger order, if the party itself is not democratized and does not run and go by the rules, I think a guy like Freddy Ferrer was very good about that. He said they're not following the rules of the party. And when that happens, somebody must stand up and say, this is wrong. And I'm saying no one, not any of the 21 members, who none of them should ever be the leader of the PNM, had the goal to stand up and say, what you're doing contradicts all we've worked for over 64 years, or how many years the party has been in existence.
I don't want to dwell too much on the PNM alone, because in a sense, I believe this is an important opportunity for us to share with certainly our viewers, wherever they may be in the world, how things may develop, how the actions that are taking place within the PNM can impact its fortunes, whether negatively or positively. But more importantly, I get the sense that you feel the PNM is not doing a good job within Balize House. What mark would you give the PNM over its stewardship, on its stewardship of the country over the past 10 years?
Well, if I were to mark between 1 and 10.
And he's a university lecturer, so he's marking his script now.
With 5 as a passing mark, I would give the PNM no more than a 4.
So you're marking it high?
I think it has failed. 4 is failed.
5 out of 4 is failed?
I'm sorry. 1 to 10.
1 to 10, yes, okay.
Would be the marking scheme.
Yes. 10 being the highest point.
10 being the highest point. 5 being the pass. I would mark the PNM at 4, which is a fail.
Are you being generous, Mr. Jeremy?
I think I'm being realistic. And I mean, there are 2 ways to assess that in my view. I think if we are to be honest about it, and this is a question that has been posed by persons having to make a decision with respect to their future at various periods. Are you better off now than you were 5, 10 years ago?
Really good question.
It's a question, as my friend said, that Mr. Reagan asked in 40 odd years ago.
Are you better off today?
Are you better off now than you were 10 years ago. The PNM has been in power for 10 years. I do not think any citizen in Trinidad, save and except for a select few, can say with honesty that the country is better off, that they are better off now than they were 10 years ago. And if that is the answer, then they have failed. And that is something that comes from me. I have never been on a political platform. I served in political office for close to a decade. I have never been on a political platform. For me to be here today suggests to you that I think that our position as a country now requires of each of us an act of courage and an act of decision. And my decision is to speak with whatever voice I have to condemn what has taken place in this country over the past 10 years, generally in terms of the management of the economy and in terms of the management of national security. And in terms of the economy, we have decimated the middle class, and that cannot be a good thing. It must warrant a failing grade.
So I get a sense from listening to you and listening to Professor Kojo that we are in a period of uncertainty. Do you believe the PNM can govern the country at this time?
Well, I mean, I hold to that truism that one of the best indicators of insanity is to do something repeatedly, knowing that that thing produces a negative result. So my answer to that question would be not simply no, it would be a resounding no.
So I hear you well. I hear you extremely well. I hear you say to me that you do not believe the PNM can govern the country.
Not at this time. That is my view.
If the PNM cannot do the job, because we are caught at this time between two political forces, the yellow force, the UNC, and the red force, the PNM. And you're saying to me that the red force cannot govern. Whom do you feel can govern?
Well, I think the question is rhetorical. If the PNM cannot govern, then it must mean that we make a change. If doing this is a symptom of insanity, we are not insane people, I think that it is incumbent on all of us to make a change, as difficult as that might be for certain people. Certain of my friends, certain of my brothers, my sisters, to allow themselves to vote outside of their comfort zone. The fact is that the opposition party now, in my view, represents perhaps the only hope for
so you are sitting here in this March month, and you know March is always a month that gives all kinds of changes, and you're saying to me that you want the UNC to win the election.
I do.
And that you would encourage people, wherever they may be, to vote for the UNC.
I shall.
Let me ask you this, because leadership is always a big issue with the politics in Trinidad. As we assess the leadership of the two parties, whom do you believe brings more stocks to the job of Prime Minister?
Well, I do not think the leadership in the PNM at the present time is tested. The leadership in the UNC has been tested. It has not proven to be without blemish and fault in the past, but you have in the leader someone who has been properly elected by her party and who has governed the country for a period of time, relatively speaking, short period of time, during which the key economic indicators, no one can say that Mr. Hawaii did a bad job in the Ministry of Finance. And I think the figures show that in terms of the national security situation, it was far better then than it is now. So my answer to that would be, without hesitation, the leader of the opposition.
So that with race,
before you go on to race, Mr. Lee Singh,
okay,
I just wanted to just sort of jump in. You talk about the PNM, and I think you have to differentiate between the party itself, qua party, as a party, and how it governs its affairs, and the government, which should be independent of that, even though they give the direction. Because what I think we've had has been a betrayal of the membership, the people who have set the tone and organized and gotten them into power. And once they got into power, they begin to serve another class. I think that's the major contradiction of the PNM. Once they get into power, they betray the people who put them into power, which has led to a classic state of instability. Now we know there's been a state of emergency and the people saying the crime has sort of gone down a bit. The question is, how do you realize your sense of self in a state when you're scared to walk down the street? 2 days ago, 3 days ago, and I thought of myself, I saw a neurosurgeon. Okay, there was a home invasion. 83 years old, goes into his house. He's there with his, I think, 42-year-old helper. He's tied up, etc., and he has to try to get himself out. The sense of fear, the sense of crime. In fact, the only rationale for a government is to be sure that it protects its citizens. It makes its citizens safe to walk up and down. The PNM has failed in that area at the level purely of the safety of its citizens. At the other level, I think as John has said, he said both economically and otherwise, they've failed us. And when this happens, you have to have the crowd say, no, you're no longer representing our interests either as a party or person or individuals. And now even at the level of the economy. I read an article, I think yesterday, where I saw, for example, in terms of the debt we are in. In point of fact, our debt is now 72% of our GDP. Normally, for a developed country, it should be 70%. For an undeveloped country, it should be 40 or 50%. Ours is 72%. You take it one step further, and you begin to understand that in terms of, as your outgoing Finance Minister said, from 225 to 270, we will be in dire straits if we do not get that that gas from Venezuela. So every level, just in terms of personal safety, to walk down the street, to stay at home, you're in danger. In terms of your economic well-being, to satisfy the needs of fundamental needs of food and gas, we do not have that. That party has failed us. That government has failed us, and it ought to be put in the hands of someone else. The second question, in terms of leadership, it's not a difficult question. One's a young man who's been there for 10 years. Minister of Security or National Security, he has failed us. He was supposed to go against the criminal list, he has failed us. And all he has done is gone around following the, I almost said the clown, following the leader of our grief. And what we have is a clone. How then, and he talks now about a new stage, what he has some phrase he uses inaugural, a new country. Nothing new comes of that old. And when we talk about the people within the party, the ministerial ranks, none of them have any distinction of John Jeremy or Louis Leasing. How do you expect them to lead us? So as a party has failed, a minister, a prime minister who has been there for 10 years, who had the graciousness to invite Rowley to go to South Africa. And all he has done is malign the woman up, down, and center. That era has passed. We have to opt for a new era. And I believe at this time that the United Congress and its other affiliate members can do that. So I think the choice is very clear. Last elections, I supported Jerry and John and the UNC, and this time around, I support them fully.
Well, if I could just interject. Professor Kudjo is my friend, but I do not refer to the former Prime Minister as the leader of our grief. Yeah. That is a phrase that he has coined and made his own. I refer to him as the former Prime Minister. Now, so I agree that and for me to be here, sitting with you today.
John, I can only be grateful that you're here. To tell your truth, bear what's in your heart, because this is a time in the Republic when strong and good people fail to act. Whatever follows thereafter will be the burden not for you to carry, but for those who chose to do otherwise.
Precisely.
And so,
if you would just give me a minute to explain my presence. I have never been on a national political platform. I served for close to 10 years under the deceased Prime Minister Patrick Manning. I am not good on political platforms. I think I am reasonably okay in the Parliament and in my ministry. For me to be here today doing something that is not in my comfort zone should tell you how worried, and I would dare say, how scared I am. And I am not someone who scares easily. How scared I am for the future of this country. I have not spoken out against the government over the past 10 years. I have kept quiet. I have kept my peace. I speak now because I am scared. I see all of the developments, our foreign partners imposing visa requirements on us, the country falling into essentially an ungovernable state. We are in a state of emergency, but really and truly, during that state of emergency, you've had the most horrific crimes take place, and an economy that anyone in the know would tell you is on the brink. I am here to do what I can to suggest to my people that a change is required.
Now, John, the government came in with the wave. Did all the ships in the sea rise together? Did all the sailors in the water, did we save them together? And so the question is, has the party abandoned a large core of its base? And if it has, how do you respond to that on the 28th of April, 2025? Do you put them back to further ensure that you remain drawn in? Or do you change course and put in place a new administration that will look after your affairs.
It's not so much that the party has been, it's the government. That's why the difference between the party and the government. Has the government failed the people, all of them?
And so, with that note, we come to the end of this particular segment and this particular installment of Are You Better Off Than You Were 10 years ago? Has the government abandoned a large core of its base? Thank you and have a great day.
WESN.
Here is your WESN News on the Hour. I'm Naomi McNish. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Special voting begins ahead of April 20th election. Dan Paul says no $2.6 billion missing, just a tech glitch. Kamala slams PNM's negative campaign at birthday rally, and internationally, Elon Musk to scale back U.S. government role amid Tesla woes. Now for the details. Voting for special electors began on April 21st ahead of the general election on April 28th. The Elections and Boundaries Commission says over 16,700 people are eligible for early voting due to work or other commitments. The EBC said voting started smoothly with the highest turnout reported in Arangua St. Joseph, where some voters were still at polling stations after 3 p.m. Special voting continues until April 27th. Offshore energy workers voted earlier this month with 74 ballots cast on April 16th and 17th. The EBC also addressed an oversight in San Fernando East, saying a ballot box was sealed without a UNC witness after repeated attempts to contact them failed. Finance Minister Vishnu Danpal has denied claims that $2.6 billion went missing from the Treasury, calling the issue a technical glitch in central bank software. Speaking at a PNM rally in St. Joseph, Danpal insisted no funds were stolen and said the system does not allow such theft. He described the rumors as social media speculation, adding that public accounts are finalized by top officials, not politicians. UNC leader Kamala Persad-Bissessar used her 73rd birthday celebration in Arangua St. Joseph to criticize the PNM's election campaign, calling it the most negative she has ever seen. Addressing a large crowd, she urged voters to reject hate and choose the UNC for people-centered leadership. She promised to reopen gate, scrap property tax, improve wages, and boost public services. Persad-Bissessar also endorsed Arangua St. Joseph candidate Devesh Maharaj, praising his long-standing community work. Internationally, Tesla CEO Elon Musk says he'll reduce his involvement in the U.S. government's advisory body, DOGE, after backlash over job cuts and a steep drop in Tesla's profits. Musk said he'll now focus more on Tesla, which reported a 70% profit decline and a 20% dip in sales. Global protests, trade tensions, and boycotts have hurt the company's image. Still, Musk pledged to continue his role with DOGE as long as it's useful, while advocating for lower tariffs to protect Tesla's supply chain. Well, that's news to the hour on WESN. I'm Naomi McNish. Thanks for watching.
WESN.
Hi, I'm Claudette, radiographer at the radiology departments at the community hospital. We offer high-quality service with state-of-the-art equipment in X-ray, ultrasound, CT, and mammogram. Come, our friendly staff awaits you.
Give us a call at 235-5479.
The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
WESN.
The politics be politicking. A lot to get through. Don't want to spend necessarily too much time on each single point, but of course, it's the home stretch, right? We're days away. For almost a year and a half, I've been more or less talking about the upcoming election. And now it's literally just, well, 2 working days, then a weekend. Who knows what's going to happen in the next 4 days? And then, of course, April the 28th would be upon us. Now, first thing, interesting situation. Not sure if it'll amount to much of anything, but Jack Warner is basically saying that he's going to go after former Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley based on certain statements Dr. Keith Rowley said. And I do believe attorneys got involved saying that, well, it was reputational harm, right, was committed against Mr. Warner based on some of the statements by Dr. Rowley. Now, Warner said Rowley falsely accused him of being an international scamp. Not sure if that's, you know, a technical term that will have enough significance in court, during a political rally. And then he further said, or Rowley further alleged, that Warner was hiding from court. Now, Jack Warner's attorneys are quoted of saying, your statements fall clearly within the most serious category as they assert as established facts that Mr. Warner has been convicted and is evading justice. You did not present these as matters for investigation or as grounds for reasonable suspicion. And I could agree with that, at least to some extent, right? The extradition is to take him to the States to be tried. He hasn't necessarily been tried yet. That is Mr. Warner. Here's the problem. And this is one of those things where you have to be careful that you don't overreach. The arguments that Mr. Warner's attorneys have, I would argue, at least on principle, academically, maybe not quite on the same level legally, but academically, you could apply that to a lot of what's being said on the campaign trail, where a lot of politicians are basically making statements that assert as established facts that certain actions have happened, are substantial or statements of fact that at the end of the day aren't proven that this politician is corrupt or that politician did something or the other. We are fast and loose with regards to what claims are being made on the political landscape. And politicians get away with it because to some extent the population does it. Whenever you're in a rum shop or any similar type of setting, on your porch, on the street corner, wherever, and you're talking about politics, there's going to be a lot of things that's going to be said, and you don't necessarily have evidence for everything that you say. In fact, it's one of the reasons why some people, as they're growing up if they're not necessarily taught how to structure an academic paper, they don't fully understand that you can't just say things without saying the why. And the why, the best why is evidence. The why of why can you say that, right? How do you know that is true? So if this actually gets anywhere, a case like this, it might actually set a precedent that would clamp down on some of the more outrageous things politicians say about each other, which I actually don't necessarily think is a bad thing. However, I don't know, one, if it'll go far enough, but not too far, and two, to what extent it would apply, because it's not necessarily a complete apples to apples comparison in all cases. Each individual situation of a politician saying whatever they want to say about Stuart Young, about Kamala Persad-Bissessar, and you go down the list of the candidates for the PNM, NTA, UNC, PEP, TPP, etc. It's not all going to be the exact same scenario each time. But the overall general concept, depending on the judge, it might actually, it'll take a while, but cause a domino effect or ripple effect of precedents that could slowly but surely chip away at this practice of alluding to things, but never actually following through with the accusations. Case in point, accusations were implied about Gary Griffith's behavior in time of office, and the rumors are abound, aplenty. Right? I'm sure half of Trinidad, if not the entire country of Trinidad and Tobago, knows all the rumors with regards to some of the things Gary is alleged to have done while Commissioner of Police. And I'm not saying the rumors are false or true. What I am saying is, politically, the rumors were used against him, and all but direct accusations were made. But when it came time to actually follow through with the promise of revealing more to the public, the term before the courts was used to basically cover up. And that's one of the things that I despise. Politicians, not just Dr. Keith Rowley or the PNM, but politicians and even other public figures like to hide behind the fact that, well, this situation is before the courts, so I can't talk about it. Well, then if it's before the courts and you can't talk about it, don't talk about it in its entirety. Don't just mention a blurb strategically with certain convenient timings, and then all of a sudden you drop it. But I'll leave that there. One of the things that speaking in absolutes is not always the best way to do it. So the OWTU president is saying that no deal to reopen the refinery will be honored under the UNC. It's not that I can't see a world where the PNM makes a deal and the right thing to do would be to not honor that deal or to renege on that deal. Although depending on how far the deal has gone with the contracts, you know, it might be tricky, but depending, you might be able to take it before the courts and say the outgoing government signed a deal that is not in the best interest of the country, etc., etc., etc. I mean, it could get complicated, but let's just go with they can not honor the deal if they so choose. Let's just make that assumption. It's automatically assuming that the deal would be bad. But you're making an absolute statement that's basically implying even if the deal is the best deal we could probably get, we're not going to honor it just because the PNM were the ones that made it. And it's that mindset. And listen, you could say that's not what Ansel Roger meant, but to some extent, that's the implication of his statement. So the assumption is whatever the deal is, it's going to be corrupt. But you're making an absolute statement. You're gearing up for a process. It's a mindset that's basically saying, I'm not actually looking to govern in a measured way. And ironically, he is technically speaking for the UNC, which I don't even know to what extent the UNC is enjoying being painted itself into a corner. Because politically, that's what's going to happen. Granted, if there is no deal, and it looks like there won't be any deal, right? It's a moot point. But the mindset is worrying. And that's all I'll say about that. Have to move on. Similarly, I'll just be brief with this. the incumbent government only has itself to blame with regards to whatever political fallout they have with the Parry incident and whatever political tongue lashing they have to take from the survivor and the victims' families. And they tried to put a band-aid on the situation to promise $1 million to each family / the one survivor. But that apparently is slow in coming. You make a promise on the campaign trail, and the campaign period is almost over. Granted, it's a short one, but still, we're talking about a month to 5 weeks. And you haven't actually delivered on that. And this is a funny thing. So now, not only does the country look at you and say, well, all the things you're promising for the future, why you didn't do it in the last 10 years, to some extent, the country can now look at you and say, even something that you promised to happen, which could, or in theory, happen before the general election. Something that you put forward on the campaign trail, that a lot of cynics already are saying, well, it's only because you're only giving them this payout because of the election. You can't even make the payout before the vote. You can't even follow up on that, and it's not a complicated promise. And if it was complicated, maybe you shouldn't make it. Maybe you shouldn't try to last minute patch a situation because you allowed it to fester for years. And that's the thing. This is one of those situations where, why didn't you do it all the time? That's essentially one of the questions that was asked right after this announcement. But the fact that you can't follow through with something that one would imagine would be not that complicated in over a month is astonishing, because then it's really hard to then believe that you're going to follow through with all of the promises you made on the campaign trail successfully. I think the PSA needs to understand that how they view the cabinet report on WASA and how the country probably views the cabinet report on WASA is not the same thing, and they shouldn't try to equate it like if it's the same thing, and I'll leave that there. Another thing, one of the UNC members or candidates, he is condemning the current Minister of Finance, because the current Minister of Finance says, well, I wasn't there, but I'm here now. And he's saying, but you are ambassador, you couldn't make a call to give your ideas? And the idea is you want to keep ponging the government on saying, you're the incumbent, why didn't you do anything for the last 10 years? The thing is, I'm fairly certain that if you really think about it, is Imbert going to really care what Ambassador Vishnu Danpal had to say any time in the last 10 years? In what world does an ambassador make unsolicited suggestions to cabinet about what to do with regards to their finances of the nation? Think about the practicality of that situation. I understand you want to keep hitting the government and blame them for being the incumbent, but you have to be practical. Minister Danpal is not entirely wrong in saying, well, I wasn't there. He wasn't in the ministry. Yes, he was a former permanent secretary, but he wasn't in the ministry. He doesn't have access to the information to give pointed recommendations. He could only speak in generalities. And to some extent, we have already seen situations where people who are ambassadors are sent off to be ambassadors. And I'll just leave it at that. Lastly, the EBC, apparently somebody has a document that was basically, this document said certain members of the EBC, including, I believe, the chief election officer and 10 returning officers, were registered PNM members. And this is the difference between just throwing a political accusation out there into the public and actually doing something about it. They referred the situation to the police. They're not playing around. Now, granted, I don't know to what extent you have confidence the police will get to the truth of the situation, but this is not, oh, and then publicly we said it's not true, and then we move on, and it's a he said, she said. No, they're saying, like, okay, let the authorities deal with it. And there's a document, they can look into the document. They're not saying, oh, we have evidence that this happened, and we are asking that the person that's we are accusing to reveal the truth. No, they just refer things to the police. When you're not operating on games,
You use a completely different playbook. All right. Not much time yet. I think I do want to get into one political story before we welcome our guest, so let's go straight into today's Daily Review. Okay, one of the stories coming out of last week and into this week that I haven't hit to yet is the situation with regards to polling in TNT. And it kind of developed a little bit more throughout the week. Basically, one media house had a poll done by Professor Hamid Ghani, or Dr. Hamid Ghani, and it was looking, it made certain pronouncements, right? And, okay, they released all of the data, the margin of error, etc., etc., etc. The point about this poll is not the results. The point about this poll is the fact that the PNM took umbrage to the results. And they said that the poll was not true. And then they had their own internal poll. But what made this whole situation interesting, right, is that it's not just the PNM that took umbrage with the results. I do believe that the results may have favored the UNC. But the UNC themselves also took umbrage with media polls, calling them unreliable. So now, this is a very interesting situation where, if you think about it, it's one thing for one party to say, oh, I don't like this poll, and you will say, oh, well, you don't like it because it says you're winning. But it's another thing for both parties to say that they don't like the poll. What does it mean? Does it mean that there's issues with the poll itself? Or does it mean that, to some extent, the political parties don't like the fact that they can't control what the media says when they conduct polls and surveys of the population? And ironically, it would hint at a layer or a depth of strategic thinking that you don't always see in political strategy from any of the parties, in the sense of they're trying to undercut media polls so that their results will never have the potential of being challenged. And what do I mean by that? Well, apparently the PNM has an internal poll, or not an internal poll, they've done a poll, and it showed victory in key marginal seats. That's interesting. But then, very conveniently, the UNC has done a poll which shows that they're going to win by a landslide. Now, with regards to polls, and I think 2016 might have been the obvious example where the polling data didn't quite match up to the election results. Everybody thought it was going to be a Hillary win, and she didn't win. To some extent, it was the same thing with Harris. Nobody thought, especially the Democrats, thought that Harris would have lost all of the swing states. I believe it was all. Polls don't always get it right. If polls always got it right, then what's the point of voting? We could just conduct a poll and be done with it. You have to have you have to assume a certain amount of error. That's why there's margin of error. And it's done in a way to help you plan for the future, to see if what you're doing is working or not, or to see what the public's perception of you is or is not. So one would think that, okay, we would poll, we would see what do people think about us. Do they think highly of us? Do they not think highly of us? And then we'll change the suit. But when both parties are saying, we don't really trust media polls. The thing about media polls is you assume that a media house is either objective or biased for one side or the other. But when the two main parties are saying, we don't like media polls, let me get what Kamala said in specific. Critical of previous polls published by the media, this is the opposition leader, describing them as suppression polls intended to dissuade her party supporters and keep them at home for the election. The PNM bosses manipulate these polls. And that's suggesting that the PNM is manipulating, in this case, Guardian Media, who conducted this poll. And again, I would like to point out that, let me get the UNC and its elements are going to step up its misinformation campaign. They're going to use everything at their fingertips to try and bring information and to mislead the citizens of TNT. It's interesting how both sides are claiming that stuff is being done against them, right? He said the misinformation campaign will begin on fake polls on April the 20th in a bid to fool the country. It will be published in the papers on Sunday, April 20th, and later in the week from the University of the West Indies, which I believe Hanegami is a member of faculty from. Both sides are basically complaining that the poll is being done to harm them. Or maybe the media is more unbiased in general than we think. Yes, individual reporters might have an axe to grind or an agenda, and at times an editorial might seem to be one-sided. But there's also the fact that if you call a spade, and if you stand from where I stand, and you look at the politicians across the landscape, you'll find a lot of them wanting. It's not that you say that one side is bad. You're basically saying at various periods both sides are bad. But their internal polls are both positive for them. I think one of the implications of this whole exercise is that, one, okay, so they want to downplay independent polls. Two, they want to prop up their own polls. It's not about facts and delivery and merit. It's about perception and spin and smokescreens and misdirection. Let's not say lying, let's say misdirection. We're not actually lying to you. We're just distracting you with something else. Look at the hand, look at the hand, look at the hand. Don't look at this hand. That's potentially going to, well, let me not use any violent language here. But essentially, rhetorically speaking, I'll leave it at that. One of the hard truths we also have to face in our political environment is, what does the media mean to us? And while I don't necessarily think that the public has to be angry with the media, I will say this. I do think the public needs to have higher expectations and demand more from politicians, but also same too with the media. But those higher expectations and greater demands go hand in hand with a requirement of the public needing to be more engaged and to participate more in the process. The media is part of the political process, and the public overall needs to be more engaged in that process. Otherwise, when the cat's away, the mice will play. When the grown-ups are not in the house, the children will run amok. Technically, the grown-ups in this situation is actually the public itself, and the children are the politicians. We elect children to lead us. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll continue on the election talk. Stay tuned. This is Talking on WSN. We'll be right back after this.
For every creed and race, we must look beyond the colors. Don't miss WESN's election coverage as we break down all the results and consider the way forward to the next chapter of Trinidad and Tobago. With Dr. Shane Mohammed, Karen Nunez-Rushera, Samuel A.O. Pascal, Ashraf Ali, David Abdullah, Curtis Williams, and other business leaders across Trinidad and Tobago. Hosted by veteran journalist Andy Johnson, alongside myself, Sean Michael Small. Looking beyond the colors for election 2025. Your voice, your vote, your future.
My name is Dr. Stephen Carroll, the CEO at Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist, and we are committed to making good private health care affordable.
For all your medical needs, including dental, radiology, laparoscopy, behavioral and mental health, along with many other services, contact us for more information at 235-5479.
Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
As always, we appreciate you starting your day with us. Let's get into this morning's first conversation.
Is the country's healthcare system more at risk, more than ever?
Why it has remained unaddressed for so long.
Political parties get lots of cash, big cash from financiers, and then when they get that now, you can't account for it.
But it's really the specialist nurses
who we are in a greater shortfall for.
We can tap into the resources and have them, at least form some mentorship programs.
Highlight our food systems, and which will attract persons from all over the world to come and experience something that actually supports the local economy.
We're lucky that we have a vibrant legal system that allows change to take place, and it's not that matters are just swept under the carpet and discrimination is allowed to be perpetrated.
A lot of people don't know that there were attempts to ban the carnival, suppress the carnival.
Our award-winning show is back, and this season promises to be even more exciting than before. What's Up, Doc isn't just a title, it's a call to action for anyone who wants to improve their health and well-being. Join us on this thrilling ride towards better health on WESN Content Capital.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
And we're back here on Talking Point of the WSND Content Capital Show. Michael Small, joined by an old friend and a former national, regional, and Commonwealth youth parliamentarian. So he has a little bit of an idea about how systems of government works and that kind of thing, debating different issues and the like, As he's done a couple, he's been on WSN just once or twice, so he may, no stranger to TV. Of course, I'm speaking about Kemiel Pascal. Kemiel, glad to have you back on Talking Point once again.
Yes, Sean.
And this is, look at the time, just before the election. We are 4 days away. Now, first of all, I want to ask, I'm not too sure where to rank this election, because one could argue every election is the most important election. But then now, we may be at a crossroad point in our history where the oil and gas money dried up, and then all of a sudden, circumstances are kind of allowing a little bit of it to come back. We don't know how far the reprieve will go. We may get a little bit of a do-over, not like 100%, but maybe like a 50% or 40%. But also, politically speaking, it might just be a point in time where the next couple of years might be hard. So this is an important decision, right? Not too sure if there's a right or wrong answer here. What do you make of this election about its importance?
Well, one, it's not a litmus test, but I'll say it's a litmus test for one, the TPP in Tobago, because they have rebranded now from under the PDP, moving over into their own, firstly being independent and then moving over into their own. And then for the opposition leader, Mrs. Kamala Persad-Bissessar, it's probably the most crucial time of her career in general and her political career in particular, simply because she will, if she is to lose this election, this will be her 3rd straight loss. And if she is to win, it would mean that she was able to,
come back.
Yes, come back.
Are you actually surprised? Because I think in the Westminster system, or even in the American system, and certain other democracies, you don't just come back.
Exactly.
You lose twice. I mean, in America, you lose once, and in the
yeah,
past you're out. But apparently, the Donald Trump phenomenon, it's more complicated and breaks certain rules. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But I think who was Tony Blair, right? He was to some extent a cultural figure beyond just being prime minister. He was there when Princess Diana died. He had that whole memorable interview, right? One loss, and I believe he was out, and that was the end of that. But here she comes, she lost twice, and she's coming back for a third bite of the apple. But she's kind of old. Like, are you kind of surprised that she's still able to campaign like how she's campaigning, and she's so driven to try to get back as prime minister?
Well, just to finish off on my first question, and for Prime Minister Stuart Young, it's really a test for him, because this is the make or break for him, because I don't see him moving forward if he is to lose this election.
All right, but back to Kamala.
Right.
She did stick with it.
Yes.
Like, how surprised are you that this happened?
When I realized that she lost the second general election in 2020 and the party still held on to her, I said, okay, well, maybe if she loses in 2025, they would probably still hold on to her, simply because they have so much faith in her, or simply it's because of the fact that party people are saying that she has surrounded herself with people who would say yes to her, basically. And the party has now morphed into something that it's not. It's not what it used to be. So I think that's one of the factors that's keeping her there.
Sticking with the UNC, because Dr. Sheikh Mohammed, he has said multiple times that they needed a facelift based on who their parliamentarians were for new candidates going into the general election if they wanted to compete against the PNM. The PNM did have a little bit of a facelift, not just Stuart Young, but that was the big change.
Yes.
And the NACTA poll said twice in the media reported, this made a difference with the population.
Yes.
So do you think the UNC has changed enough on that level to compete? On other levels, they're competing. But on that level, do you think they changed enough?
I would say no, because that's one of the major factors that people look at your leadership. Who is that person that it's at the forefront that the population can see? That's the person who ultimately has to, well, that's supposed to be making the decisions and stuff. And so I think that's one of the factors that people will be looking at. And so I don't think they've changed enough or rebranded enough from that Kamala brand. They've attempted to, but they haven't done that.
And let's go back to Stuart Young, because you think this could be a one and done if he loses. So this is interesting, where we acknowledge the opposition leader. This is her third, well, technically her fourth general election. She won the first one, she lost two, now this is her fourth. She might not even be kicked out if she loses this one, although I would argue her age will be more of a factor, right? But Stuart Young is young, right? Not just a name.
He's just 50, he has time. He'll be 51 this year.
So to think that the litmus test for him, or the consequences for him, he's on a shorter leash than Kamala, is interesting. Is it because the party dynamics are different?
I think it's yes, because the party dynamics are different, and I think that's one of the reasons why Dr. Rowley has stayed on as political leader. Simply because if the PNM is to lose the next general election, he as the political leader will now have to kind of step in and move forward with that transition, because will the opposition MPs who are then voted in, would they support Stuart Young to be the next opposition leader? Or would they then move forward or bring forward their internal elections for the political leader to now appoint a new political leader from persons who have been elected to the lower house? And I think that's one of the factors.
What do you make of that whole thing that happened with the transition? Because I thought Stuart Young being prime minister, that's not a problem. It was the fact that they didn't have an internal election before the general election. So he doesn't have the mandate of the party membership.
Yes. I know they've said in the past that they don't usually like to go into internal elections in the year of an election. But I am still of the view that they could have done an internal election last year, let whomever the person be chosen and let them move forward into campaigning for the party going forward in this new election cycle. That's my honest opinion. And I still do feel that some people will be voting on that issue, as much as it's kind of...
That internal issue might be reflected in the national election?
Yes, to a certain extent. And I don't want people to take away or to discount that fact that people will be voting on that. There are people who will consider that.
I mean, one of the things, I didn't necessarily like the idea that this might be a litmus test for race in politics. Because I thought, look, Stuart Young should be voted in on his merits, not on just to have the first half Chinese Prime Minister. Because in part, it's kind of unfair to him, like the level of expectations. Because if you're a first and you fail, because I've heard that, let's just say, one of the firsts that we've had in recent years has not been a success, and it's caused a bit of a pushback in that organization. The perception now has set back that demographic. So there's a lot of responsibility. Do you think that, to some extent, the race issue is that big of a deal, or not really? And it's more about the actual internal politics and policies and governance and all
I think for this one, it's more about the internal politics and the issues and the policies going forward. I don't think that the PNM people see it much, well, a lot of them see it much as about being about race, or whether Stuart Young is of African descent, or whether he's of Asian descent, or whatever is the case. I really don't see that being an issue for the PNM people in particular. I think what they'll more vote on is the transition and how they felt that the transition should go forward. Now, the PNM is usually an organized party, and so they would come together and they would huddle together and they would move forward, but I still do think that people will factor in that transition, because there are still people who feel that Penelope Beckles-Robinson should have been the chosen candidate, and they don't like the manner in which that transition took place.
Well, now let's say that a lot of what you would speak about is if the PNM loses. If they win, they technically still have an internal election. And in theory, that internal election could see Stuart Young lose, and assuming that the political leader would be a member of parliament, then that could mean that the Prime Minister, like, will Stuart Young's Prime Minister role in office, do you think, generally speaking, he should survive an internal election, he should win it, or not?
I think he would win it. Once he is elected, well, once the PNM wins the external election, it would be very, very easy for him to win the internal elections, because people would see him as that person who led the party into the elections. And it would be, and that's why I think he is under much more pressure than Kamla Prasad-Bissessar, is because his political career, in a sense, kind of hinges on it to an extent. Now, the age is obviously a factor. He still has time, unlike Kamla Prasad-Bissessar, to now come back from something like that.
Do you think it was a mistake with regards to his individual political career? Because you made a good point, and I agree with you, technically speaking, that if he loses, his political career will take a major bump. It might knock it off course. Potentially, it might not survive in worst case scenario. Do you think that it was too big of a risk that, I mean, there's speculation internally as to why Dr. Trolley picked him, but let's put that aside. Strategically, for his personal career, would you have made a similar choice?
In terms of, so we have to look at like the way the pros and the cons, and I think that's what people would have spoken about in the party when that whole transition was taking place, and when it was announced that they had voted and chosen Stuart Young as the person. The thing about it is that you have to look at the person. Yes, Penelope Beckles might be the person who has the empathy and the sympathy and might have the heart of the people, but then you also look at the person who has not just experience, but somebody who has been there with Dr. Rowley side by side over the last 9 years, kind of understanding deeper than Mrs. Robinson, Penelope Beckles-Robinson would have been working on. I mean, she would have been the Minister of Plan, the Minister of Housing at one point in time, but would she have in-depth knowledge as Stuart Young would have had, based on current circumstances?
I mean, that's the positive with Stuart Young, right? The perception that he was hands-on on a lot of different things, and he was kind of like the backstop. He was like the Secretary-in-Chief, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But what I was getting to was Stuart Young himself. Him choosing to accept this decision now and to put himself in a position where, well, the stakes of if he loses are just as high as if he wins. So it's kind of like a gamble almost.
It is a gamble. It is a gamble.
That's what I'm saying. Do you think that he made the correct decision to take on this gamble? Or should he have, like, maybe, okay, this might not be the best time for me to go forward?
I believe this would have been in the works for a very long time. That's my honest belief. They wouldn't have just done this. Dr. Rowley is not a man to just do things just like that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that said, it seems as though, okay, what do you make about this? When they announce the election, so this is not exactly in line with what you just said, but I think it's similar along the lines. When they announced the election, it seemed as though the UNC was like a step or two more prepared than the PNM in certain aspects with regards to their campaigning, slogans, not necessarily policy, but with having their venues set up, their crowds ready to go, their speakers ready to go, their slogans ready to go, their political propaganda machine, let's just call it what it is. Everybody's using up some amount of propaganda, right? Like they were ready and the PNM weren't necessarily all that ready. And it seems as though even the process to transition, it was a little bit shaky because, as you say, they usually close ranks and don't reveal.
Yes.
But a little bit of stuff got leaked out.
Well, the thing about it is that I think when you're in opposition, you obviously have more time and you're a little bit more flexible in terms of being able to have meetings and campaign and get stuff done. When you are in government, remember, you have the responsibility of your constituency, the parliamentary workings, you have stuff of your ministry if you are a minister. And so I think that's, and then you have your own party stuff to deal with. So I think that's where the UNC would have had more time, because they've been hosting meetings over the past couple of years, every Monday night forum, then they had the pavement reports and that kind of thing. Whereas the PNM would have had meetings, you know, off and on, just to, you know, keep their base together and always keep people informed, really.
Well, one of the things though, and I mentioned it, there's somewhat of propaganda. I mean, what do you make? Let's just touch a little bit on the youth in politics. What do you make about the UNC's campaign strategy? Because it seems as though they've crafted a strategy that better, I guess you could say, it's more viral. It hits more with the current generations, I would imagine, than maybe what the PNM is doing. They have their campaign song, when UNC wins, everybody wins. It's so catchy that people sing it. Right? You've seen reports, people, the child singing it in the car, the old granny singing it in the house, right? That doesn't mean that it's about the UNC, but it's so catchy that it's occupying space rent-free in people's minds. And then also, to some extent, I don't know how far this has become popular, but the term yellow is the code, or the phrase yellow is the code, right? I don't know if that's hit with young people, but it seems like they have very specific things that they're going with that's working, whereas the PNM, they're like trying out different things in the last couple of weeks, different songs, different jingles, different sayings or slogans, and it's not quite hit in the same way.
Well, the thing about it is that what I would say is that the UNC has been able to, or they have rather been on the ground a little earlier, and they were selling their campaign a lot earlier than the PNM. Because that when UNC wins thing didn't just come up when the date was announced. They had they had been saying that right before. They had also been saying yellow is the code and UNC and proud and stuff a little while before. I think it's just that people are more in a focused state or heightened state.
Right.
They are able to receive it a little better than
before when it was
just a saying for them. On the PNM side of things, I mean, well, not just on the PNM side, but in a campaign, you're obviously trying to respond. You're obviously feeling what your base or what the people on the ground are saying, so you would try out different things. And I was actually having this conversation with somebody just 2 nights ago about the fact that that a bold new chapter thing that the PNM are now saying, that has finally begun to resonate with people. I think just the week before elections.
Well, okay, keep on.
Yes, just the week before elections. To the point that I think they've been trying out stuff to see, well, what works, that kind of thing. And I was asking somebody if the PNM has any like behavioral psychologists on their campaign teams, because communications people and behavioral psychologists can kind of work to see, like, to help you craft your campaign in that way. And I think they are only now beginning to see, well, this is what works before the election.
I mean, you may be aware of this. We come from the same school. You know, it seems as though politicians don't really take advice from PR people or mass comm people as much as they should, I would imagine, given some of the obvious errors in hindsight.
Well, what I could see on the side of Stuart Young, from him being sworn as Prime Minister, that same week I realized a change in his tone, his tenor, his overall flow in how he speaks.
Right.
Even at the political meetings, I've been looking at him, and he's obviously taking advice from somebody. There's somebody behind the scenes advising him as to, when you present certain issues, this is how you should present them, because you are trying to craft it for a certain market. These are the people that we need to win over.
But is it a PR person, or is it a political operative? Because I would argue those aren't the same thing. Their perspectives won't be the same.
I think it's both sets of people who are involved in communications and people who are involved in politics and strategy and that kind of thing.
Because the reason why I say that is, I remember one of his earlier campaign messages when I'm looking at the UNC and they have bigger crowds in bigger venues. So that first week, the PNM really looked like they got caught off guard. And Stuart Young goes on the mic, and one of the things with the PNM, I mean, you know, I think they call out Kamala Prasad Biswas for reading. And at least at that time, I can't remember if he had notes with him. But there were a couple of instances where he was either contradicting himself, or what a lot of people have questions are is, well, why didn't you fix X back when you were in power?
Right.
But then when one of the things that he said kind of takes those two things and combines. So that's one, he spoke about his time when he was a lawyer for the unions. And the PSA president just went on a UNC rally, and with regards to political messaging, she crushed it, right? With regards to her flow and the emotional delivery and all of that. Right. So he's having to now push back against what was a very effective union leader speech. And he basically said, well, when he went to the court for the Communication Workers Union, he successfully said, well, what's good for the TSCT executive had to be good for the worker. But the point is, you could see where that doesn't fall in line with the whole 4% versus the SRC recommendations for senior government officials. And so that's why I wonder, like, is anybody backstopping him and, like, helping him craft his speech? Because it seems as though some of it is too much off the cuff, and he's not consistent.
Well, I wouldn't say so, simply because he has a style not similar to Dr. Rowley, but in terms of, like, they don't read paper, they will have little notes on points, and these are the things that I want to say, not just a speech prepared. Yeah. Because remember, on your way to a meeting, something might happen. You might get told, okay, we need to address this. Or the UNC's having a meeting and they just address it on their platform. So your campaign manager will shoot a message to you, listen, they just spoke about this, I need you to address this. Because your campaign manager needs to have people out there listening. Remember, it's not just about, you can't just pay attention to the internal dynamics or what your base is saying. But in a campaign, you need to pay attention to what the other side is saying so that you can effectively respond. Because you can't just leave things out there. If you take too long to respond to stuff, it's going to go out there and people are going to think that that's what it is, but you need to address it. And I think that he has been able to address stuff very frontally, and he has been able to pivot in terms of his speaking style over the last couple of weeks, and he has developed greatly as a speaker, I would say, particularly in the last month.
I would agree with you. Even if I don't like some of the content, the fact, like how he presents himself as a speaker, I'm a little bit surprised. It's not as though he couldn't speak to the public, but
I am surprised as well. I feel the same way.
Yeah, that it's a little bit like it's not that he couldn't speak. It's just that how he's doing it. You know, he is coming across where he's very serious. Yes. Because there was some people who were speculating that it's not really what he wants to do. It's what his father wanted him to do. And how much was he committed